All right, what's up, guys? This is the AEW Kicked Out at 2 review. It's Quags and Chris coming at you. Chris, how you doing?
Doing all right. Just us two. How's it going, Quags?
Yeah, it's just us two today. Sharb is not with us. He is actually on a secret mission out in the western part of the United States. That's all we can say.
Yes.
So we are going to be reviewing Dynamite for May 5th, 2021 at Daly's Place, the Blood and Guts edition of Dynamite. But before we get into it, we do have, Sharp was able to send us in a video. So he couldn't be on the call the whole time. You know, data is expensive when you're out there driving around. But we do want to share his thoughts up top. So why don't we go ahead and do that?
Yes.
What's up? Sharp here with Kicked Out at 2 Dynamite Review, Cinco de Mayo 2021. I'm burning rubber down to Colorado for a gig, leaving the review in the capable hands of Chris and Quags. Just going to give a quick overview of what I thought about the Blood and Guts episode. Michael Nakazawa and Omega got a little too much offense. We knew the end was obvious. Ethan Page, Scorpio Sky, beatdown of Darby. I loved the stairs, was brutal. Looked very real. Didn't look like an orchestrated, hey, we're going to brawl over to this, then do this, then do that. I liked it. Squash with Britt Baker was fine. Cody Rhodes versus QT was okay, but I think this type of feud deserved a more brawling style match where they really, this is more of a blood feud. I know they didn't want to do that because they didn't want to take away from the main event, but if that's the case, then I just wouldn't have done this match on this show. Tag match was good. I like the Acclaim's rap before with Max Caster bringing up Brian Pillman Jr.'s father. I thought that was brutal, but if you're going to do the rap gimmick, you got to go with it. It'd be interesting to see. SCU's obviously going to lose next week. Omega's promo was a mixed bag for me. I think it kind of stinks that they're just tossing together a main event match with a number one contender thing between Cassidy and Pac, who don't seem like two strong contenders to me. I think Cassidy will win. I don't see him as a main event guy, so I don't love it. Omega saying things like sock hop and funny papers is strange. I don't know why he's talking like he's in the 1950s. Miro's promo was good. I predicted that Miro would be the one to take the TNT title off Darby, and I think that's what we're going to get. I hope they don't have Sky and Paige interfere. I hope they just have him brutalize them. Then Blood and Guts, I thought was a great mix of old school War Games style and kind of the modern NXT style, where it's old school is more of just like a bloody brawl. NXT is more of a spot fest because they can't really make it nearly as violent. Thought this melded those perfectly. I love the prison jumpsuits. Way too many spots to even bring up, but I thought this was a great match. Ending, I liked the idea of it. I liked Sammy surrendering to try to save like his father figure in Jericho, but MJF pushing him off anyway, which we all knew was going to happen. Mixed feelings about the crash pad. I don't want anyone to die, but it looked kind of silly. Rocket of the night, definitely the Blood and Guts. I think it totally delivered. Anchor of the night, the woman that Britt Baker wrestled looked like she was 15, so I'm going with that. 8 out of 10. All right, guys, have a good one.
Nice job, Sharp. Way to multitask. Very impressive indeed.
Yeah, appreciate you sending that in. And he loved the show, so we'll get to that and see if we felt the same as he did. But appreciate you taking the time, Eric. All right, so Dynamite started. Kenny Omega's music hit, but Don Callis and Michael Nakazawa walked out. No Omega. Callis called out famous names from Japanese wrestling. He said Kenny couldn't make it tonight, but in the spirit of giving the fans what they came to see, Nakazawa would wrestle the match by himself. Kingston and Moxley made their entrance, but they were blindsided by Omega with the AEW Championship belt as they worked their way through the crowd. But at the end of the day, no surprises here. Nakazawa took the pin, and Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston defeated Kenny Omega and Michael Nakazawa in about 8 minutes. Chris, you called that one last week.
Yes. There was no surprise there.
Absolutely. After the match, the Young Bucks, Gallows, and Anderson gave us the weekly beatdown of Moxley and Kingston. Matt Jackson wore some Hawaiian-themed former hotel curtains. They landed super kicks and a magic killer to Moxley. Omega returned with Cutler, and he then landed the one-winged angel on Kingston. Omega celebrated to end the segment. So, I thought this was interesting way to get names on the show. I kind of would agree with Sharp that they probably got a little bit too much offense in, and I didn't really love Nakazawa wearing the AEW like
Oh yeah,
shirt,
like
the
the
polo.
IT attire or whatever it is.
Yeah, I thought that was weird. I did like the attack through the crowd. I thought the story was interesting, the way that they told the story in the match, like Kenny not abandoning Nakazawa right away, giving it a chance, and then kind of running. Um, Overall, though, I didn't think that the wrestling was that great in this match, which is kind of disappointing to me. But I guess that's kind of the match that it was going to be.
Yeah. I even like kind of was watching it. It was exactly what I expected. I didn't like think this was going to be like a all-star type of match, but everything kind of that happened was definitely expected. Like you knew Nakazawa was going to get pinned, but you also knew at the same time that like Kingston would be kind of like the feeder that's going into it, as in like he's going to probably take the damage, so give the hot tag to Mox, and then when he comes
Mm-hmm.
in, so it kind of like you knew all that stuff. So which it wasn't bad. That's the story you should tell.
Yeah.
Match is what I expected. I thought it was great heel stuff by Omega. I actually cracked up like at the end of the match when like the classic heel thing of doing this and then
Yeah,
going
I don't
away.
need this.
I was like,
Yeah,
cracking
I
up.
agree that
But
that
it
was
was
good.
so funny how like he literally left, and as soon as they got beaten down, he'll just like walk back. He's like, "Oh, okay, like I'll come back or whatever." I was just like, "That's such like a slimy thing to do," but I'm glad he's like pushing that more and more often.
I actually didn't hate the beat down at
No,
the
beatdown
end.
was fine.
Yeah, and the way that the Bucks distracted them, so the Good Brothers came in and attacked from behind. I mean, this is a good little story they got going on. I'm interested in it.
Yeah.
I would like someone to wrestle Kenny for the belt. That's my only
They might
thing
be
here. It's like,
pushing Moxley and Kingston. If you didn't like, not to get analytical
mm-hmm.
about the match, but they finished off with a double team move, which
Yeah,
usually means
it's true.
they're cohesive enough to keep going. I actually really like
Mm-hmm.
Kingston as like a wrestler and and the promo stuff. I think he's golden.
On the mic, he's awesome. Yeah,
No one's
absolutely.
like more realistic than him, I feel like, but I could see them going that way. I mean, also if Sharp was here, I'm sure he would definitely, side note, talk about Matt Jackson's attire, whatever that Hawaiian thing is. First, I thought it was like a romper or romp, whatever they call a romp him. And then I was just like, why is
Yeah, I
he
think it
dressed as if
was.
he's going to surf right now? What is this? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, they're doing such an awesome job making them look like real dummies. I'm a big fan of it. All right, so next we had QT Marshall versus Cody Rhodes, everybody's favorite bowling shirt wearer, QT Marshall. The action began as soon as Cody got in the ring. They brawled quickly. Cody landed that vertical suplex, tried to attack him with the belt. Eventually QT pulled kind of the same thing, kicked out of a couple moves. Eventually Cody landed a crossroads, applied the finger four for the win, defeating QT Marshall in about 12 minutes. They gave him a good amount of time here.
Yeah. I kind of figured that they were going to give him a good amount of time. Like, obviously, not to say backstage politics, but like, come on, like these are the guys, these are the homegrown guys that kind of built AEW. I'm actually fine with them. Like, okay, they put in the work. Yeah, give them a little bit longer than usual time. It's fine. And both of them are very comparable in the ring. I know I've been ragging on the Factory and QT for weeks on weeks, but I will say that they both know how to put a good match, and you can tell that they put good amount of work into it. It's just hard though, because like again, like why I was ragging on it is with merit. We saw this a lot with Cody. Like everyone steals the crossroads. Everyone, like, you know what I mean? And then everyone turns their back on Cody. So it's kind of like this is kind of rinse repeat again. So but it was still good. Like as much as QT is just so odd to me, and I'm not a fan of him, he's very comparable in the ring. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he's really competent. I totally agree with that. I said last week, I think the same thing. Like he wrestles like a guy who teaches people how to wrestle. Yeah. So he knows all the moves.
That's a perfect description.
he knows all the steps. He knows how to kind of move around. Yeah, I enjoyed the match. I actually had this as a contrast to the last one where I thought the story maybe was okay. And Sharp remarked that he wished it was kind of more of a blood feud, like grinded out match. You know, maybe that would have done it, but I actually like the wrestling a lot more than in the first match.
Yeah.
In this one.
And then
I thought Cody's cootie. I thought Cody's moonsault looked awesome.
Yes.
The shorts coming down was funny.
Oh
That almost
yeah,
looked
that
like
was
they
like
did it.
like an old school like thing to do. Like they used to do that like Ric Flair all the time. I was like, all right, show your ass on TV, I guess.
it kind of looked like they did it on purpose. Yeah. I loved Arn grinding his head into the post there. That was great.
Yeah.
Cody looked awesome with the blood at the end there. Shout out Blood and Guts. And then the Ogogo punch, of course.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get into. It was just like what I guess like I figured out, like I actually liked that they tied, remember that random, well not random because it built the whole story, but that exhibition match or whatever. That they tied that in at the end as in like, oh, you didn't want to slap the submission on or whatever. I'm like, okay, now we did. I'm like, all right. So it kind of tells that story, but I think this story now is I think they always wanted Anthony Ogogo to be like the over guy, the star out of this. So I was kind of happy that we don't need to wait months for like Cody and QT, which is weird because QT is the leader. So you would think that Cody has to go through like his gremlins just to get to QT. But it seems like, okay, let's tell this story now with QT and Cody. And now it's a reason for Anthony Ogogo to do something and become more of a star. It's just this gut punch thing. But I mean, like, if they're just going to keep going with it, fine. But I'm fine with him being the star. Like,
I see what you're saying about the sequence. I wonder if it's kind of like, oh, he wasn't ready, but now he's ready to take on Cody or whatever it's going to be, whoever he might be taking on.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. All right. So the announced team then cut to a video package that featured Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky attacking Sting and Darby Allin last week. Sky addressed Sting and called him a mosquito sucking the blood of young talent. I like that he called him Steve too. He told him he'd do just what he does to mosquitoes and kill him. He's the franchise now. Ethan Page said Darby Allin had a permanent dent in his forehead from him. That's why he has to wear all that ugly makeup. He took credit for putting metal in Darby's elbow. Darby showed up and promptly got his butt kicked. But he did get a pretty awesome coffin drop in from one of the concrete Johns there.
Yeah.
And then he did get thrown down the stairs and it looked really bad.
That was aggressive.
Yeah, so I'll say the same thing kind of Sharp said was that it looked real. It looked real. And this is kind of the thing we needed to kind of push this feud to the next level. I feel like now I'm like, okay, it's got some juice behind it. I understand what's going on here. I liked learning about the history with Paige and Darby. I did not know that. So yeah, it was cool. I was very into this.
Yeah, I thought this was great. Honestly, I was waiting for this from Ethan Page for a while, so maybe I'm a little more eccentric because Sharp's not here to badger me about how Ethan Page is just a guy. So maybe I'll get it out now when he's not here.
Yeah,
but I thought this was like the best promo from like Ethan Page. I got to a point where he was about to say like that they've wrestled so many times in the indies, and in my head I was like, no one's gonna know that or even want to hear about it. And then he actually said that. He's just like, but no one wants to talk to me about matches that no one saw. No one cares about that. I thought that was like a great line, like perfect. And Scorpio Sky, he's coming into his own too, which I thought was good. Of course, he said bitch at the end, but everyone has to say something like
I know they're loving the cursing, but whatever. But that was actually a place where it was appropriate.
Yeah,
I feel like
if it they didn't say it every week, then that would mean something a little bit more. But I mean, that's just critiquing either way. But like, it got me what you just said way more excited about these two going against like Sting and Darby, and like even what Eric was said before previously about like how next week hopefully it doesn't interfere with like the match and stuff, and they just have the match just like go through anyway. Which that's fine. I mean, I don't see that happening. I think that's probably the predictable way it's going to happen. But you know what I actually love about AEW? I said this before in different podcasts, is like their backstage stuff. When they go all out, I genuinely enjoy it. I feel like it's a pro wrestling show when they do that. When he threw him down the stairs, I was like, Jesus Christ. I was like, you're just going to throw him down to concrete. I'm sure it was his idea to do it, but it was definitely really cool. Like, and to watch it as I'm like, wow, this guy's getting his ass kicked.
Yeah, I still think he's going to get hurt at some point doing that. I mean, like, you just have to land wrong one time and you're out for a while, but that's his prerogative, man.
Yep.
Whatever. But I agree with you. Not to get ahead of ourselves, but Miro takes the belt off Darby, that just leaves Darby. He can go do this and see where it goes from there.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So then Julia Hart versus Britt Baker. Not much to say here. Defeated her really quickly. They announced that Britt will be taking on Shida on May 30th. What's the name of it? I'm sorry.
Double or Nothing. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
At Double or Nothing. And yeah.
Oh, that's basically what the match was just a squash match. That's all it is. Honestly, when I saw the first this match, Julia Hart, I'm like, wow, Britt Baker's gonna attack this 13-year-old and just pound her into submission or whatever. This is very weird. I was like, they could have gotten any extra, but they decided to go with the one who literally looks like a child. But other than that, I thought it was fine. I'm glad that Britt Baker is being showcased. I think why they had this short squash match or whatever is because they know this whole blood and guts match, it's going to get, which it showed. I think it hit definitely over, I forget how much, but it hit over 1 million viewers. So they just want people faces on the show, at least the first hour. So they're okay, which I think is smart on the company's end, get these people out there as in hey, they want to watch the blood and guts, but then let's prelude all these other faces that are still on the show. So that's good that they're really pushing Britt Baker.
Yeah, and it seems pretty clear she's going to win. But also there's going to be fans at Double or Nothing full capacity, they said. And so cool. That's cool that Shida gets to walk in with the title, at least gets that moment. I know we talked about that before.
Right.
All right. Moving forward. All right. So SCU, Jurassic Express, the Acclaimed, Varsity Blondes had a 4-way tag match for an AEW tag title shot. A lot of spots went back and forth, and then ultimately SCU defeated all the rest of them, and so they're going to have the opportunity to go against the Young Bucks, or is the Acclaimed wrapped on their way into the ring, the Young Cucks. I gotta say, I skipped something. Oh my gosh. Sorry. The technique.
Let's
do that after.
Yeah, we'll do that
after.
So
this.
short.
The Acclaimed rap was good and very funny. The beginning there with Jungle Boy and Frankie Kazarian. I mean, it is true. Watching him growing up, it must have been really cool to be in the ring with somebody that you idolize, and even as you're a kid learning to wrestle and all of that. Jurassic Express looked way better than they did last time when they wrestled Bear Country and we panned them widely. I think it'll be a fun tag match with SCU, probably their last big match, you would imagine, against the Bucks. So solid all around. Again, getting people on TV, letting them show out.
Exactly. Because they don't do if you actually know, if you actually kind of know this or whatever, AEW doesn't do that many not multi-tag, yes, multi-tag, but kind of what we call 3 ways or 4 ways or anything like that. They're very good at keeping it singular, as in this team against this team, and that's it, or this guy against this guy, and that's it. We don't see any 3-way matches at all, or even these 4-way. So they're just getting faces on, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's WWE uses it a lot to just get a bunch of people in to matches, but it's so
way oversaturated.
Absolutely overused.
But the match in general, so I will brag that I said that Max Caster and the Acclaimed, I told you guys they were golden from the beginning, and I'm glad you guys are saying it now. I was honestly dying when he was rapping it and calling Young Cucks and everything, whatever, tied into Brian Pillman's dad. What Eric said in his video, gotta go all in on that. It's you should, obviously there's a line, but I think obviously he knows where that line is. He's great. I think Max Caster is definitely going to be the star. I think Anthony Bones is actually super solid as well. Eric really enjoyed this match. I thought it was a fun but chaotic. It seemed like people will were all over the place. Sometimes there was instances where I felt like it got sloppy, where like this guy was here, but then he was just trying to get over there. And I know everyone's just trying to get their moves in and all that stuff, but that's fine. That's kind of what I expected, as in like, you really are pandering to the main event. So no way you can't take time away from that. So like, okay, we're on TV. That's the whole point. Millions of viewers are watching, get our stuff in, and that's fine. And the SCU promo from last week, which was phenomenal. So nothing surprised me at all going into it. I'm like, they just cut that phenomenal promo. Of course they were going to win this match. I was just waiting for one, but like, again, fun chaos, like going around, a little sloppy here and there, but I think it's going to be like a good swan song, to be honest, with the SCU against the Young Bucks. It should be good because they've been friends for a while. So like behind the scenes. So, but I like this feud going into it, as in like now the Young Bucks are douches and then the SCU called them out. So it's going to be their final swan song to that. And I think they're going to have a very good match. Next week's show is looking phenomenal too. We could get into that as well.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, so let's dip back into this technique with Taz for a second.
Real quick.
I thought it was really fascinating how they had this idea of breaking it down like it was real tape, or like you were really studying tape. And what seemed like he was praising Christian was actually that he was showing his weaknesses and exploiting them. And to me, it's almost like they always talk about, oh, this guy studies up and he knows, like, right. he knows the right moves to pull. And this was the first time I ever saw something like that on TV. I enjoyed it. I thought it was unique. And Taz is really charismatic. Obviously, I'm not saying anything new, but he's good on commentary. This was kind of captivating, and I was kind of like, what's going on here for a minute? So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was different. Like, it was new, so I was kind of like, I'm like, oh, I kind of like the kind of like they pride themselves in this win-loss record, right? So they pride themselves in be a little bit more sports centric. So this toes that line of the more sports eccentric stuff. Not sure how I feel about it yet. I think maybe if I see more of it. At first I thought it was like a serious thing, as in like, oh, he's really breaking it down. And then he was just like, yeah. And then like just started talking trash about Christian. I'm like, oh, this isn't as serious as I thought it was initially going to be at first.
You thought it was kind of like a shoot almost?
I thought they wanted to, because they knew a lot of viewers were going to watch. So I thought they really like wanted to show like, hey, we're heavily into the sports entertainment as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then like he was trashing on Christian and like hyping up his guys. I'm like, oh, okay, so they're actually pushing that. At first I thought this was going to be a weekly thing where he's just going to do this with like random people.
Gotcha.
And then when he did that, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe this is pushing the storyline. I'm like, okay, if he keeps doing it, if it's like being funny or whatever, hopefully they don't overdo it so much. But yeah, it's new, it's different, which is always good to be different.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so then we got a video of Jon Moxley's NJPW US title run and his challenge to Nagata. Moxley responded to Nagata calling him little by telling him he was in over his head, said once the bell rings, he has no respect for anyone. He claimed he invited Nagata with respect, but it wasn't returned, and he would teach him something in the ring on Dynamite. My takeaway was that it was good. I didn't really know anything about this feud coming in, except what you all told me. And I like this thing Mox is doing with his shoulders, where it looks like kind of a little, thing that he's got going on.
A little swagger.
That's part of his, a little swagger that he's got as part of his character now.
Yeah, I actually thought this was actually helpful to inform those who don't know, like as like Sharp is our resident overseas, like a Japanese wrestling type of guy. So I'm sure he was pumped to even see this as in like, okay, because he was explaining this to us even like last week of like this guy is very well renowned like over there and everything, which is really cool. So it's helpful for like we're not casual fans, we're actually very big fans of this, but we don't know that stuff. So this was helpful to inform us of like what is actually like happening with this match or whatever. So it's always good to put that on TV. And again, it's not taking up so much time. Just say it quick so we know what's happening next week. I'm like, perfect. Let's go with it from there.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. All right. So then we had Kenny Omega cutting a promo brought out by Tony Schiavone. for an announcement. Omega walked out wearing the AEW championship, while Mike Nakazawa carried the AAA, Mega, TNA, and Impact championships. Omega didn't immediately discuss that. He screamed about blood and guts. He said he's been all around the world collecting gold. He wasn't there for fun, and he didn't want to be there at all. So please, Tony, just make the announcement. So Tony announced that Pac and Orange Cassidy next week will have a match to determine who challenges Kenny at Double or Nothing. Kenny then basically said that Pac is going to be great and shot on Orange Cassidy for, being kind of trash and didn't respect him at all.
This was I actually enjoyed this. I thought it was good. It was weird that
I'm pausing because Eric's in my head, but it's funny because I think we're on the same page. So go for it.
Yeah, because Eric said he wasn't so much of a fan of it, but I don't know. It's two schools of thought, as in this did kind of run on a little bit, but at the same time, I really like this heel persona that he's pushing so much. First off, even just describing how he even came in the ring, I like the presentation of him. You have to make him a larger than life character. If he's your guy and he's the over the top heel, you got to make him larger than life. Perfect. You have his goon squad of Nakazawa come in holding all his belts, and he's holding the belt, which is actually kind of stellar on AEW's part. That's why I was confused with Impact and all these other companies, right?
Yeah.
They agreed to this. And what Sharp said before about Kenny Omega's the big fish. You got to it gets viewers with them. I'm that's true. So and it's on their show. It's he says AEW is the belt. That's what they truly want you to they want you to buy. And that's exactly it. Cause it is the belt. And then it was just kind of I was actually confused at first because when they just announced Pac versus Orange Cassidy, I know Eric didn't really like just the announcement, kind of just go in and then just the winner just faces them. They are the number 1 and 2 guys. So it's kind of they're playing into the ranking system a little bit.
So I wonder if it's also that they're the 1 and 2 guys, but previously there had been a strong number 1 contender for a long time. And so instead of just
lost. Right. So I think that was probably that was probably the exact placement of why they had Brian Cage and Adam Page wrestle and then have the upset so they could set this up. Which makes sense. I'm okay. That's fine. I'm
bummed that it's not Adam Page. I mean, I guess we got a lot of that interaction with him and Hangman before, but at the same time, and I love Orange Cassidy. I
know you're bummed. I know you're bummed about the Adam Page thing, but let's maybe take it back. Let's step back for a second. Remember when Adam Page was the white meat baby face when the company first started, and not everyone really was all about that. I mean, everyone loved Adam Page, right? But then they kind of got a little sick of that, when he lost to Jericho and stuff. But then when he became white hot over was when he just started not giving a shit, becoming a little bit more of a heel, right? So I'm starting to think that when they put the belt on him, they want to make sure they have that, that white over the top, white hot.
Dream deferred and finally reaches the goal.
So I think that slow build is happening. We're all bummed that it's not Adam Page versus Omega because that match is going to be amazing. But I'm thinking they're saving that for a very big match down the road because I don't see Pac or Orange Cassidy, whoever wins, beating Omega at Double or Nothing. So I could see that. I could see Page just still going through the ringer, especially when full capacity fans are coming back. I think they're going to make that a very savory payoff.
Yeah, I hope you're right. I mean, I could totally see that as well. And I also think they want to reward Orange Cassidy for being the guy that he is. And I think he's a really popular character with kids, especially. And just one of the more unique characters that AEW has. So that may be one of the things that they're trying to do. I love what you said about goons carrying the belts.
Yeah.
It is a little bit like a prop though, right? When you have 4. And we've talked about this off mic, but how are they gonna just the wrestling world going to get these belts off Kenny, can't be the champion.
He's gonna lose 20 times in a row.
Yeah, and we'll kind of deal with that as it comes. But I do like that they are putting the AEW belt up there as the most important, the one that everyone should care about. And also it's Dynamite, like you can't say, but I really like Impact. So yeah, who knows? Whoever's in them. First of all, the Orange Cassidy and Pac match should be great, and then I think whoever wins, I think it'll be a good match with Kenny. So, and I'm glad to get to see Kenny wrestle because he's kind of been doing this heel thing where he's just hanging out,
right?
A lot of the time. So, I mean, the tag match doesn't really count.
Yeah,
like
we know he's the singles competitor that he is. And basically, I also like that Orange Cassidy showed up because when they announced this match, I'm just like, well, in my head, then I was thinking like, okay, Pac is definitely winning. I don't think Kenny and Orange Cassidy even spoke to each other. I'm like, what? That doesn't make sense. And then he comes in, and then they had this whole rapport of like, yeah, it was a little weird, the sock hop thing, but I actually kind of dug it a little bit, went through the motions. But then I'm like, okay, at least they're building a story to at least suspend belief. Now I'm like, okay, Orange Cassidy could win now because they had this previously history with Pac. It does tie, like when the Death Triangle and then like the best friends, they were like,
that's true too.
So this all ties in together. I actually like that a lot of the things make sense. I don't have to explain 10 different things. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that could happen or whatever. I'm like, okay, this kind of nonchalantly forms like a good tie.
Yeah. Yep. That absolutely makes sense. All right. So then after that, Miro walked out for an interview next to the cage, grabbed the mic and said, everyone, if they have gold, they have a problem. Then Miro basically said he's going to challenge Darby Allin next week, and he needs Darby to show up because he doesn't need handouts. He finished by saying that next week, the man who doesn't mind dying will meet the man who doesn't mind killing him. Ooh.
That was a good one. I like that.
Yeah, go Miro. I mean, I think we both think he's gonna win.
Yeah, I think so too. We've been waiting for this type of Miro for a while.
Yeah, and it also ties back into Darby getting beat down and hurt or whatever. So, it can give him cover to drop the belt too.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And like going off what Sharp said, unfortunately, Eric, I know like your fear is like, oh, if Scorpio Sky, Nathan Page, like do the typical thing of distract Darby and then Miro wins. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Maybe it won't, maybe it'll be different, but I could see that. So they don't have like this feud of like Darby and Miro again or whatever. Darby could focus on that. And then Miro could be like this monster who just literally rips through everyone. He's like, I don't care if you challenge me, you're going through this and stuff like that. That could make sense. You could build Kip Sabian up and to saying, okay, former best man, best friends, and going at each other because Kip Sabian's been floundering for a while and he was the mainstay from day one. So you would think that like, okay, you want to push this guy. That's a feud they can do. Kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I liked it. Good stuff. All right, I'm not going to recap the whole blood and guts match. I think we're just going to go through it together. I mean, I'll say, started really heavy and ended really heavy with MJF saying he was going to throw Jericho off of the cage unless the Inner Circle went ahead and surrendered. They said they surrendered. He threw him off the cage anyway, and onto a crash pad, which we will get into. But yeah, go ahead, dive in.
So like, I actually really like this match. It's kind of perfect of like what Sharp kind of described to it of like what the differences like are to like kind of like between like obviously NXT, which is more of like kind of like spot fest and stuff, and then you got AEW, which kind of leans more into old school like violent type because they can do that because they allow themselves to do that. I like this beginning of like unity because I was thinking like, okay, when they have like the two rings and stuff like that, there's gonna be a lot of people in the ring. So then you want to make sure that you know who's on which side, especially if you're just a casual viewer just watching this. Because if you're just randomly turning this on and you see 10 dudes in a ring, in 2 rings with a cage over, you're like, what the hell's going on? So I like the matching gear that showed unity with like the Pinnacle and the all white and stuff like that. I really like the Inner Circle coming out in like their jail outfits or whatever, and I like the homage of like where they're from. They probably put their like hometown penitentiary like in the back or whatever. I liked how it started with the Guevara just going kind of balls to the walls, flipping over. That was great. Like,
yeah, I love the note that like, and nobody can even surrender now. So they're just kind of, burning through their energy, but it's not like they were going to end the match at that point.
Yes. So like, just in like me being like analytical about it, I would nitpick of like, if I was obviously like we're suspending our belief here, but like if Pinnacle was the second guy coming in and you have Dax, I would think in my head, I'm like, why would you want to elongate the separation of like my favorite tag team, the best tag team of FTR? I was like, why don't you just put Cash right in right away? But then you put Shawn Spears, like, all right, that's fine. And I honestly, Shawn Spears needs the Pinnacle and he needed this because he was kind of floundering. Like his feud with Cody right in the beginning, that was decent. And then it just seemed like he was just a guy. But now he kind of is standing at, like, not standing on his own, obviously. He needs the Pinnacle, but now he has a role that he can play. And that's what he always needed, a role. It can't be just like everyone's a good wrestler, right? So then I liked when Ortiz came in. What did hurt this match a lot, and I know it's TV and stuff, but like, I don't know. Like, I thought you could at least buy, like, maybe this is a question for Sharp, of like buying TV rights of like, can you just buy that hour without any commercials?
I had the same thought. I think the picture-in-picture really hurt this match. And I know that AEW kind of wants to bring pay-per-view quality matches to regular TV, and that's kind of part of their deal. And you mentioned already like the number of viewers they brought in, but this was really hurt by that because it was super intense. And first of all, like, I usually catch it after it airs, and so I'm fast forwarding through commercials, and I never watched a picture-in-picture. It's, you can't see really what's going on, and nothing huge is going to happen, right? Because they're
not going to do
wrestlers
that.
know. So I like that it's on a normal show, but it sucked that we missed those parts, or that it wasn't one like longer cohesive thing.
Right. So like when Wardlow came in, so like here's me being like kind of analytical fan in here and stuff. Like we knew who was going in. So like it was very smart to have Sammy Guevara in, like, because you knew he was going to be like kind of the workhorse and stuff like that. So then you had like the Spears come in, and then you have the tag team specialist comes in. Like, you want to anticipate like the big hosses of Wardlow and Jake Hager. So like I was excited to, as in like, okay, because that's an easy build, right? As in like, okay, you have the heels take advantage, and then you have the baby face literally coming in to save the day. So the easy story to tell. But then like when the baby face comes to save the day, I was thinking like, oh, when Wardlow comes in, this guy's just gonna you want to see a big man just doing just demolition derby on everyone. And then they cut to commercial, and you just missed his whole his whole thing.
Slamming everybody. And
I was just like and I was watching it live. Not everything also was picture in picture too. So I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, this kind of blows out everyone's steam watching this. And I was excited for that. And then it was exciting when Jake Hager came back in, and like you knew that was going to happen, right? With the two big men, they're drawing the line in the sand, and like they just want to go into it. Big spot, by the way, was when like Spears and Sammy were bouncing on the ropes, and then like Ortiz nailed him in the back with a chair, and then he hit a Spanish fly off of that. I was like, that was impressive.
Yeah, that was sick. I thought the coast to coast was pretty impressive. I'm always impressed by just how far that is, and also love using the chair on the chairman.
Yes.
That was on Spears, right? Yeah. Appreciated the guys bleeding, but it not being just gross. All like, I thought they kind of balanced it out. The fork into MJF was pretty good. And MJF looked awesome on the top of the cage. Like he
he knows how to sell it.
The guy holds court. There's really no other way to say it.
Oh, another thing about the commercial break kind of ruining it. It was like we know what's going on. Obviously, we knew who Tully Blanchard was, but like, I'm watching this picture in picture and I'm just like, okay, for guys who maybe don't know what's going on, they just see some random guy in a white suit just opening the cage. And then these guys are, and then like, before you know it, then they show the show and they're just on top of the cage. So I'm guessing like,
yeah.
And it was funny because the picture in picture, like I could see Jericho's face. I could even tell like because he's a pro's pro. He knows TV and everything. He probably like he was either informed or knowing that like, hey, don't get on top of the cage until the picture in picture is done. So I saw him smiling in that picture to picture for like kind of a awkward long time while he was climbing up, and I was just like, okay. But other like those are nitpicks. Other than that, though, what you were saying before about MJF like kind of like being like crazy on top, I thought that made the match like 10 times better of him just acting like he's insane just to like win this match or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it also finished exactly how we anticipated that it might, but it didn't feel cliche or didn't feel like used, it felt good how it ended with Sammy surrendering for Jericho and then MJF throwing him off anyway. Yeah, the unfortunate thing is talking about the commercial because there were so many good spots. There was so much good action in this. I love the way that they sequenced it and planned it out where, it was kind of back and forth and then they were all together. Together before like sort of re-engaging. They
like
did an awesome job
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
Yeah. Everything really, really well done, honestly.
I even liked even like the small things of like kind of making it more realistic. Like even when who was it? It was when Cash came in, like he's just trying to like stop the momentum of like their team. He's like literally tackling guys and just throwing them off. It doesn't like he literally looks like he's a dog, like just like going in after him. Like that looks realistic to me because that's what someone would do. They would just break up whatever someone else is doing or whatever. And when they were one side of the ring to another, that was fun to watch when they just both like collided.
Yeah, it was booked really well. And then the ending, it's unfortunate that the main angle that they took showed so I mean, Sharp said this too, the crash pad, it's fine to use that. I get it, like you don't want somebody to get hurt, especially like a 50-year-old person. But it's little things like this where they didn't know the right angle to use where it wouldn't be so obvious, I feel like, or the right way to do it. Because on the replay, there were several replays where you couldn't see a lot of the stuff that a lot of the crash pad-esque material. But of course, the one that they showed, like a bag, like basically flew out into the camera. So,
I mean, look, because it's a tricky situation because you have to pick your camera angle right, because they've done it in WWE a couple of times where they show a guy jumping off and you don't even see where they land. And then they pan to the camera. I'm like, oh, he landed on concrete. I'm like, yeah, this guy didn't jump off 20 feet and land on his head and go like that would kind of bother me, as in like, that's just stupid. I wish you just wouldn't do it at all, because that like I gets to a point like I can't even suspend that belief anymore. Like he would just be dead. So I loved the part when like MJF is just screaming like a crazy person saying, I'm going to throw him off or whatever. And then Sharp called it saying Sammy surrendered. And like the whole team was just like, look, stop, because like obviously don't want to hurt. And then he does it anyway.
Yeah.
It's like a 4-year-old guy drop. Like, what did you guys want? But the camera angle, like
I just hide it a little better, but
a little bit. They could have done something better. It was just,
I do think we're nitpicking though, because like I don't want it to get lost that they really executed this well. It was awesome. I mean, by saying that we only wish we could have seen it without the commercials, I think that's really saying
that's what hurt it, to be honest.
A positive thing. Yeah. I mean, it was great. For a giant match with so many people to go off like this and not have really moments that took you out of it or looked silly or whatever is like a huge testament to all the talent.
Yeah, like things made sense. Like I'll even like throw a random thought out there. Like I don't like props so much if it's not like a title, because it doesn't mean something. So when that they introduced that Dynamite Diamond ring or whatever. At first, I thought that was the dumbest thing. I'm like, oh, who gives a shit about that? And he's like, any significant moment you could tell in like MJF's career, he's been using that and he's won it again. I'm like, oh, okay, this is like a big thing for him. So I'm like, okay, that thing is ring is way more important than like I initially thought, which is great. And him being the heel that he is, just like even like when he was in the Walls of Jericho, I never saw someone just wind up and just punch him in the nuts. It's like he just wanted it more, like as in like he literally will do anything to win this match. And it kind of made sense, right? Like Pinnacle just formed, they had this great start off of like how he did it and stuff. So you can't have him lose this big match from the get-go, especially in Inner Circle's like very well established since day one.
Yeah, it would have been stupid if they lost. This is a good, very good luck, very good match, good booking.
But Inner Circle lost appropriately, because if you're pulling off of a surrender or you tap out, whatever, that you can look like a chump a little bit. But this was, I thought, done very well. That's why the crash pad was such like a bummer, because
just
like
took you out of it for a second.
It took you out of it for a second, and then it's just like, but that like ending needed to happen. That's what, like, because that's how we kind of guessed it, right? And Sharp like hit the nail on the head, as in like, no, I think Jericho will about to get like seriously injured, and like they'll just call it off or whatever, which makes sense.
Yep, totally. All right, so let's get to our Rockets and Anvil.
Nice.
What was your Rocket of the night?
I'm gonna have to go with the Blood and Guts match, honestly. I just had a lot of fun. Like aside from the commercials and crash pad, other than that, everything else was like just pretty. It was just fun. Like I haven't been excited like to watch like a show, as in like anticipation of a pay-per-view quality show in a while. So I thought that was like extremely like needed. Just the commercial breaks, I was just like, why? But like just everything, just like kind of the tie-ins of like when everyone came in, how honestly, I thought the ring broke for a second. I was like, oh God, is something happening? But they actually unscrewed that one ring. I'm like, oh, that actually kind of makes sense.
That was cool.
They took off like the pads or whatever to show the boards on the ring. So I'm like, oh, that kind of makes sense. You just destroy that one ring, you still have another ring you can use. So I'm like, oh, okay, that works. It's just that's not bad at all.
There were so many spots. I know we haven't covered them all, but it was great. So I'm gonna say specifically the coast to coast. I'm just a mark for that. I don't know why.
That's good. It always looks like it kills them.
And it looks so far. I'm always like, there's no way they're gonna make that.
Yeah, I think my spot of the night was maybe the Spanish Fly, just because I was just like, they're gonna mess up. And like Sammy was like springboarding everywhere where he did mess up that one time, and I was thinking like, well, yeah, he's jumping off these ropes like a trapeze artist constantly, like one time, and he's wearing like, I don't know, like Jordans with his jumpsuit.
Yeah,
like it's awkward.
Yeah, that's gotta be tough to execute.
But that Spanish Fly was pretty sweet.
Yeah. All right, Anvil of the night. I gotta look through. I don't know. So if you have one,
I was. It's kind of tough because the other matches were just like sideshow matches, so you can't like flack them for that because they were all building on the Blood and Guts. But if I had to pick one, honestly, I would probably pick the Britt Baker versus Julia Hart. Only reason because Julia Hart looked like a toddler. So I was just like, you could have maybe grabbed someone else who, like, and she's probably great too. But like, again, we're not going to see that because it was a squash match. So in my head, I'm thinking, just pick anyone. Just pick anyone that like looks like they're an adult. Like I'm sure Julia Hart probably kills in the ring. She's probably like an amazing wrestler. I'm not flacking on her, but like just pick an adult.
She probably
next time.
earned so hard that like 2 minutes of TV time. But right,
exactly.
I am gonna say that a go-go punch just goes.
That's not going away. So like
that's we play the hits here at the Kicked Out at 2 Dynamite review. Yeah. All right, so rating out of 10, I'm honestly gonna say a 9. I thought this was awesome. I think it totally delivered on what they wanted to do. Really just wish we could see the whole uncut match, Blood and Guts match, but they did a great job. It felt like a lot of stuff leading up to a big main event. So I was a big fan.
As Zack Snyder showed, your uncut version is just going to be better, and
yeah,
this uncut version would have been better. But like, honestly, I was thinking about giving it a show. I know Eric, I think probably gave it a little bit lower just because of like of everything that was going on, like 8 or 8.5. I was actually ready to give the show an 8.5, but then after going through the Blood and Guts match, when I kind of disregarded the commercials and then the crash pad camera angle, honestly, the match was very fun. Like I just like felt like I was just watching a pro wrestling show. Loved the backstage attack, and like honestly, the Kenny Omega promo was weird, but I actually love that he's going all in on this. The Miro promo was great. I'll give it a 9. To be honest, I think it just hit a 9 for me. They made just like the amount of stakes that I don't know. Like again, like the crash pad thing. Like what else did you want them to do? But
Right.
like you can't do anything else.
It's nitpicky wrestling fan stuff, which we're allowed to do. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we do every week. But at the same time, yeah, it was an awesome show.
Yeah. I even saw like NXT wrestlers tweeted out like things of like making fun of the crash pad thing. And I was like, honestly, tread lightly, guys, because like you guys can't bleach.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't know if you guys should be talking, but like at the same time, it's fun when they talk about like who's better which show. It's good for us, right? Because if they're competing against each other, then like we'll get better shows out of it.
Yeah, it pushes them to go farther.
Yes.
All right. Awesome. Well, that will do it for the Kicked Out at 2 Dynamite review. And we'll catch you later. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Subscribe, please.
Oh, yes.
Click the orange box if you're stuck around.
Click the orange box in the corner, whichever side I'm on.
Take it easy, guys.
All right, peace.